Hello, it's 10 o'clock. I'm Joanna Gosling. Welcome back. Almost 400,000 British Airways customers have had their card details stolen after booking flights on the airline's website or app.
This was a very sophisticated criminal attack on BA.com. And over more than 20 years that BA.com has been operating, we've never had a breach of this type.
Well, if you think you have been affected, we're going to be hearing from experts on what to do. Do get in touch as well with your experiences, all the usual ways. We have also been visiting a refugee camp, the Zaatari refugee camp in Jordan, where former Arsenal captain Per Mertesacker is launching a football programme aiming to help some of the 40,000 traumatised children who live there.
Where do you want to be one day?
Famous player.
Famous player.
Football player like you.
We'll be hearing more from Per Mertesacker, who's now head of Arsenal's academy, in the next half hour. A committee of MPs say the education watchdog Ofsted is leaving parents guessing about the quality of schools in England. The head of Ofsted has spoken to us this morning. She says they've got it wrong.
We are not in control of the amount of money we get. We have a statutory obligation to inspect. We have to put children first and say, given this amount of money and the obligation to inspect these schools, how can we do the very best that we can to give children the best quality of education and parents the best level of assurance?
We'll also be hearing from the MP who put together the report. If you're a parent, are you getting the assurances you need about the quality of schools in your area? Do get in touch in the usual ways. Right, let's join Anita for a roundup of all the day's news.
Thank you, Joanna. Good morning. Tony Blair has used an interview to strongly criticise the current Labour leader, Jeremy Corbyn, his supporters and his policies. Speaking to Nick Robinson's Political Thinking podcast, the former Prime Minister said Mr Corbyn poses an existential threat to the future of the party, and many within the party believe that it's lost. Jeremy Corbyn has responded to previous criticism from Mr Blair by noting that he's entitled to his opinion, but that politics has changed.
The type of politics that people like me represent, which I would describe as modern and more moderate progressive politics, if that isn't represented by the Labour Party, it doesn't really matter what I think or what these MPs think. I don't think the British people will tolerate a situation where, for example, the choice of the next election is Boris Johnson versus Jeremy Corbyn. I don't know what will happen, and I don't know how it will happen, but I just don't believe people will find that, in the country as a whole, an acceptable choice.
British Airways has apologised after the credit card details of hundreds of thousands of its customers were stolen following a major data breach on its website and mobile app. The airline said the incidents occurred between August the 21st and September the 5th. The stolen data isn't thought to include travel or passport details. BA is advising those affected to contact their credit card providers as soon as possible. Parents in England are not getting the assurance they need about the quality of education their children are receiving, a committee of MPs has warned. The Public Accounts Committee says it's unacceptable that so many schools previously rated outstanding by education watchdog Ofsted are exempt from being re-inspected. They claim cuts to Ofsted's budget mean families can't make informed choices. Ofsted says it's confident inspections offer parents the assurance they need. And we'll be hearing what the Chief Inspector of Schools has to say about that coming up soon at 10:15. Hollywood actors have been paying tribute to Burt Reynolds, who died last night at the age of 82. The screen legend appeared in dozens of films over 3 decades, including Smokey and the Bandit and Deliverance. He enjoyed a late career revival with an Oscar nomination for Boogie Nights in 1998. Arnold Schwarzenegger called him a trailblazer, and former partner Sally Field said her memories of the star would never fade away. Burt Reynolds, who's died aged 82. That's a summary of the latest BBC News. More at 10:30. Joanna.
Thank you very much, Anita. We've been getting so many comments from you on the Tinder story about 1 in 5 Tinder users being already in a relationship, and also about people on those people having psychopathic tendencies. we've had an anonymous emailer saying, I met my last 2 partners on Tinder. The relationships were both train wrecks. My most recent ex was physically abusive. The one before that just moved into my house and used me as a free place to live. The thing with dating apps is you can't really vet people. By using them, you put a lot of trust into the person you're dating. You have to believe they are who they say they are. They're often not. You can be whoever you want to be online these days. I'm trying to go back to old-fashioned dating. Keep your comments coming in, #VictoriaLive. And if you are emailing and are happy for us to contact you and maybe want to take part in the programme, please do include your phone number in your message. And text will be charged at the standard network rate. Right, let's join John again for all the sport. Hi.
Hi, Joanna. Good morning. It's farewell to Alistair Cook, who plays in his last test before retiring from international cricket after a brilliant career. Lots of tributes have been paid this week after the announcement came on Monday. The final match in the series with India at the Oval will be his last for his country. Our sports correspondent Joe Wilson is there this morning. A beautiful setting in South London, Joe, and I guess we can expect, or certainly Alistair Cook can expect, a stirring reception when he walks out in the next hour or so.
Oh, definitely, but he won't cry, John. Remember, he did tell us that earlier in the week. Here we are in our lofty position above the Oval in South London. The way that Alistair Cook is perceived in the England dressing room is sport's most down-to-earth superstar. That's the way that Joe Root, the England captain, described him yesterday. I asked Joe Root whether he felt that Alistair Cook had another century in him. He's been practicing here, of course, at the Oval after a summer in a series against India when Cook has looked a long way short of that form. So I'm not sure if we're going to have that fairy tale ending. It would be the 33rd century of Cook's international career. Thing is, John, take away the romance a little bit, it would be more significant for England, actually, if the other opening batsman, Keaton Jennings, made a significant score in this Test match, because it does seem that in English cricket and around the world, this art of opening the batting in Test matches, which Alistair Cook did perfect during his career, is now a dying art.
It is indeed. And Alistair Cook aside, I mean, it would be a fairy tale ending, but you say there that any number of the top order really need a big score. You know, how likely is that? And I guess how fortunate are England to be in this position, having already wrapped up the series against India with one match left to play, in light of the way that they've batted in this series?
Well, it's a good point, isn't it? Because England time and time again have been sort of bailed out in terms of batting by the kind of the almost limitless all-rounders in the team. So whenever there's a gap in English cricket, Moeen Ali kind of fits it, and he's batting number 3 today. He'll come in number 3. Whether he does that for this Test match, whether he does that for the whole of the winter, in the Ashes here next summer, John, well, we'll have to wait and see, but there were loads of questions to be answered there. They need somebody in the batting lineup to actually make runs as a batsman. From India's point of view, John, I think they will be wondering, well, how come we're here in this series having already lost it? They came to England, remember, trying to prove that they can be their best away from India. The reason they've really failed is because they haven't showed that resolve and that nerve in the run chases where they could have won a couple of Test matches easily. How much energy and enthusiasm they'll have left for this Test match again, that's an intriguing aspect.
It is indeed. Well, conditions certainly look set fair. We're looking forward to it. Joe Wilson live in London for us this morning. Many thanks indeed. And we will, of course, keep you across Alistair Cook's performance in that final Test to come. Now, superb start for Wales in the Nations League, the new look tournament, which gives European countries a route to qualify for Euro 2020. 4-1 they beat the Republic of Ireland last night. Tom Lawrence with their opener. And it was a really impressive second as well. It got a thumbs up from Ryan Giggs there. What a goal that was from Bale. We saw him do that many times, didn't we, in the Premier League before his move to Real Madrid. Aaron Ramsey with an equally impressive third before Wales put the gloss on the win with another, giving manager Ryan Giggs a first win in his competitive match in charge. Serena Williams edged a step closer to equalling the record for the most Grand Slam singles titles as she reached the US Open final overnight. One set up, she wrapped up the second 6-love against Anastasia Sevetsova, and it means that she will face the 20-year-old Naomi Osaka in Saturday's final, who was just 1 year old when Serena won her first Grand Slam title. Now she's got 23. She could make that 24 come Sunday. And the way that she's been playing, you wouldn't bet against her, would you? That, Joanna, is all the sport for now. We'll have more in around half an hour for you.
Thank you, John. See you later. Almost 400,000 British Airways customers have had their details stolen after booking flights on the airline's website or app. The details include name, address, email address, credit card number and the 3-digit security number on the back of the card, which is enough information for it to be used. Earlier, BA Chief Executive Alex Cruz spoke to the BBC about the response to the hack.
This was a very sophisticated criminal attack on BA.com. And over more than 20 years that BA.com has been operating, we've never had a breach of this type. We are absolutely committed to integrity of the data of our customers. The important thing is, as soon as we found out that these records may have been compromised, we began the communications process through all channels available and, of course, directly to the customers to alert them about this potential problem.
That's BA Chief Executive Alex Cruz. Well, we can talk now to Colin Harbour, one of BA's customers who got that email from them. He joins us now from Cyprus. We're also joined by Steve Giguère, a cyber security specialist from the technology company Synopsys. And with me in the studio is consumer expert Megan French. Welcome, all of you. Colin, tell us, what was the first you knew of this?
Well, the first I knew about it was getting the email this morning. The email, unfortunately, the first thing on the email was the link to book flights. The second thing, as you scrolled down, was a very nice, pretty picture. And then right at the bottom was the devastating news that my data had been hacked. The BA seemed happy to say what data wasn't divulged, the travel and passport information. So one has to assume that everything else in my profile has been divulged. But then I get to thinking, well, also in my profile is my passport and travel information. So I'm guessing that could well have been divulged as well. So they'll know exactly when to burgle my house.
Have you had any funny business going on with your accounts that you paid for your tickets with?
No, I haven't. I spent nearly an hour ringing my credit card company this morning, which ironically is British Airways American Express. After nearly an hour, they said not to worry, they're on my side and will be watching my transactions, but clearly I'm going to be doing that as well.
And just in terms of exactly what information has gone as a result of this hack, the BA says it's personal and financial details of customers. As you say, they've sort of said what hasn't gone, but are you clear now on what's gone?
I have my doubts that the full story has come out yet. I know in other cases where there have been data breaches, there have been further revelations later on, and I strongly suspect that will be the case here. I mean, as far as my credit card is concerned, I wasn't offered the cancellation option, but as you know, I'm in Cyprus, so I wouldn't have got a replacement, so I'm just going to be watching my transactions very carefully.
Megan, what's the best advice to anyone that gets one of these emails and knows that they've had their information hacked?
So Colin's done exactly the right thing. Contact your bank as soon as possible. Explain to them what's happened. Next up, keep watching your statements. Look for anything suspicious, and also be wary if you get an email, a text message, a phone call you're not expecting. Be very cautious. We see scammers jump on this kind of bandwagon, so never be afraid to go and find the information independently. Call back BA via their number that you've researched yourself, and obviously change all your passwords that are linked to this.
And are you completely protected?
So it's, again, you need to monitor these and explain to your bank what's happening. There are protections in place to help you get your money back, and British Airways has said no one will be left out of pocket. But it's not an ideal situation, and it is one that you will have to keep monitoring.
Steve, BA say this was a very sophisticated hack. What are your thoughts on how sophisticated something like this would have to be?
An organization like BA would already have very good security measures in place, so I think we have to assume that it is somewhat sophisticated for sure. Having seen some earlier reports on other sites about their statements, I've heard that they've indicated that they're calling it a data theft as opposed to a data breach, which might indicate that there was some insider threat involved, which does add to the complexity.
Why do you suspect that?
It's simply more down to the fact that the data was between a specific window and not necessarily outside of that. The rewording of data theft implies that somebody didn't come from the outside and sort of take the data. That would then be a hack of sorts.
I mean, obviously that's sort of you're basing speculation on the information that is out there, but
absolutely,
how often are data breaches an inside job?
Well, there was a report last year that stated that approximately about 1 in 4 data breaches that we see involve some form of insider activity.
Is there any way that people can protect themselves, or are we just all completely reliant on the companies that we give our information to when we go online?
Well, it is a bit of both, isn't it? There's a little bit of, you need to be careful with the obvious things like repeating passwords and allowing organizations to store your credit card information, for example. That's never necessarily an advisable thing to do. I think, though, in this case, with this particular breach, it's something that we needed to rely on the organization to be able to detect misrouting of data in transit, and that is something that is possible. I mean, to be fair, I book flights via BA, and I very well could have been caught out by this exact breach.